Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of the ending and post-credit scene of Deadpool and Wolverine. Spoiler warning! I know it's early, but millions of people are seeing this movie as we speak, and we wanted this video to be here to provide some answers for folks coming out of their screenings. And there's actually a lot to break down here, because Deadpool and Wolverine is not just a cameo fest, it is a tribute to the legacies of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, to Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool, and to various early-era Fox Marvel characters who paved the way. So this ending is best understood as a salute to that era, and its post-credit scene wraps it all up nicely, but some questions remain about the multiverse logic and when we will see these characters next. And before I get into it, I am wearing our Choose Your Fighter shirt, inspired by these X-Men characters, available at nerdriot.shop, and grabbing one of these is a great way to celebrate this moment and support New Rockstars, and also look ahead to, oh, I don't know, people like Thor that they may be running into in the future. Okay, with another spoiler warning, let's go. Okay, there is one post-credit scene, and it reveals what really happened with Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, with Chris Evans returning in the role from the 2005 Fantastic Four and 2007 Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, before Marvel Studios recast him as Captain America Steve Rogers, and features Johnny saying some of the most foul-mouthed things this actor has ever said on camera, so that we all collectively are playing the Boy Scout role of language. Johnny is the first pruned hero that Deadpool and Wolverine meet in the Void after Mr. Paradox banishes them there, following Deadpool's search for a new Wolverine from the multiverse to anchor his home universe to keep it from dying, and to try to keep Mr. Paradox from expediting that process with the Time Ripper. And by the way, those multiversal Wolverines include various hilarious cameos: a Patch Wolverine, a John Byrne suit Wolverine who's fighting a Hulk, and Henry Cavill as one of the Wolverines. But don't worry, I'm gonna break down this whole film scene by scene with all of the Easter eggs and the jokes and the references in tomorrow's full movie breakdown. It's gonna be a whopper of a video. So at first, Wade assumes that this de-aged Chris Evans is a pruned version of Captain America Steve Rogers, and he braces for that catchphrase, but no, the catchphrase is flame on! And Johnny Storm lights up into the Human Torch, and he completely steals the show of this movie, in my opinion. But then Cassandra's gang shows up, including Pyro, Toad, and Sabretooth, and Pyro sucks out Johnny's flames, giving him a very ugly non-superhero landing. So Deadpool, Logan, and Johnny are captured and brought to Cassandra Nova's compound, contained in the corpse of giant man Scott Lang. We learn that Cassandra Nova has collected countless versions of the X-Men and other Marvel heroes banished to the Void from these various pruned cinematic timelines, including a few past versions of Professor X and even a Magneto, but they're all dead. And Deadpool tries to shift the blame onto Johnny, saying that Johnny called her, quote, megalomaniacal, egotistical asshole, and a host of other insults. And Cassandra responds by ripping the flesh off of Johnny's body, causing him to collapse into a bloody heap of tissue and bone, a death not unlike, the amazing cameo followed by a quick death of the members of the Illuminati in Multiverse of Madness. Now, throughout this movie, Wade tries to defend himself over this and claims that it wasn't his fault, that this is actually what Johnny said, but no one believes him. So Deadpool and Logan escape the compound, and they meet Dogpool and Nicepool. They fight in the Honda Odyssey, and then they get taken in by X-23 Laura Daphne Keene, who lives in this lair with other forgotten Marvel heroes, including Jennifer Garner as Elektra Nachios from the 2003 Daredevil film and the 2005 Elektra film, and Wesley Snipes as Blade from the trilogy of Blade films starting in 1998, a trilogy that included Ryan Reynolds' start with Marvel as Hannibal King and 2004's Blade Trinity, and then Channing Tatum as Remy LeBeau Gambit, who was attached to a Gambit movie in the early 2010s, but that movie was stuck in development hell, and this is kind of just the Gambit that never got to be. Now, we learn that Johnny Storm was part of this group, but Deadpool maintains that he did not lie about what Johnny said. So Wolverine confesses to Laura that he wears the yellow and blue suit because in his home universe, his Scott Summers, Jean Grey, Storm, Beast, all begged him to wear this suit, and he never did, but he left the mansion one day, and the evil forces of humanity, maybe the FOH or the OZT or some other group, it wasn't specified, but these humans came for the X-Men and killed them all. And in order to kill them all, I assume it must have been Sentinels, right? Or maybe it was the OZT with like Bastion leading the charge. We're not sure. Wolverine holds himself responsible for turning humanity against the X-Men though, and from here on, he went on a killing spree, killing various people over the years, and Wolverine continues to wear this suit to remember the team that he was a part of. We also learn that Mr. Paradox and the TVA put Cassandra in the Void, and that she's a wild card who can leave the Void whenever she wants, but she chooses to stay there because in this Void, she can rule as a tyrant. So it is implied that every time we see the Void in the Loki series, Cassandra and her compound are elsewhere in the background of it. And we learn that Pyro has an understanding with Paradox to make sure Deadpool and Wolverine would get fully eradicated by Goliath before they could join the forces with these other Marvel heroes, but it doesn't happen. And these forgotten heroes attack the compound, plotting to get Juggernaut's helmet off of his head since Magneto is dead and Cassandra melted his helmet. Juggernaut's dome is the one thing that could block the telepathy and psionic energy of a Professor X, and by extension, his Mumudrai twin, Cassandra Nova. Part of what's so fun about Deadpool is having this awesome superhero story told to you by an unreliable narrator. But if you're reading the news, an unreliable narrator is really the last thing you want. Many people these days don't really know who to trust with their news, and yeah, I get it. That's what's so great about Straight Arrow News. They differentiate themselves by giving unbiased reporting, highlighting both left and right-leaning stories, and delivering reliable factual news coverage on events across all sides of the aisle for a full picture of today's news. Straight Arrow News keeps you informed with real news in real time. They've got an awesome media mist tool that helps surface stories that go underreported or don't get enough love from the algorithm to be at the top of your feed. Straight Arrow News is a free app and website, meaning there's no paywall for your news. It's great. News should be free. Visit san.com/newrockstars to check it out for yourself. You can head over by clicking on the link in the description or download the app by searching Straight Arrow News. When you download, you're not only supporting New Rockstars, but you're also supporting a free news platform created by a group of journalists that are on a mission to raise the bar in the media and hone in on serving you the truth. Wolverine lets Cassandra probe into his mind, and she takes him to an astral plane with rows of gravestones representing the X-Men that he let down. But it was actually a distraction, because in this moment, Laura has tossed Juggernaut's helmet up to Deadpool, and they plop it on Cassandra's head, but then Pyro shoots her, so they remove the helmet to allow her to heal, and to thank them, she lets them use her sling ring with chunks of the Reality Stone and the Time Stone in it, which she had stole from a variant of what she calls a magician, referring to Doctor Strange, whom she killed, and using this, they use a portal to let them escape back to Universe 10005. They return to Deadpool's Vancouver neighborhood, where Paradox has set up a TVA station with the Time Ripper in a subway station. Cassandra Nova now plans to use this Time Ripper to destroy universe after universe, so that all that will be left is the Void, and that she could rule over everything as a queen. And then the Deadpool Corps arrives, which is a mass of 100 Deadpool variants, including Nicepool and Dogpool, but also Ladypool, who we only hear in the form of a voice of Blake Lively, according to the credits, Kidpool and Headpool, the Deadpool Kid, who's a cowboy, as well as a Deadpool wearing Wrexham AFC colors. That's Ryan Reynolds' Welsh football club, co-owned with Rob McElhenney, whose cameo as a TVA agent seems to have been removed from this movie, and various others that I'll break down in tomorrow's video. But Deadpool Prime insults them all by saying that the multiverse is kind of an overdone trope, and that it was really done best back in the late 30s with The Wizard of Oz. And you know what? I don't disagree. The Deadpool Corps attacks, and Deadpool Prime uses Nicepool as a human shield until his head explodes, because we learned that Nicepool cannot regenerate, does not have healing powers. Deadpool finally gets Nicepool's gold-plated Desert Eagles, and Wolverine finally dons his mask. And the two go to town on the Deadpool Corps in an incredible long take, including through a bus that includes a shout out to Stan Lee in his 1922 birthday, as well as an ad for Raymondo's Marvelous Soup, which is a nod to Raymond Chan, the longtime Marvel art director who just passed away in April 2024. He actually gets a tribute in the closing credits, along with Henry Delaney, who's Rob Delaney's son, who tragically passed away in 2018. The Deadpool Corps regenerates, but they are charmed by the arrival of Peter, who wears Deadpool's suit from the Drive Max locker, and really stuffed part of himself into it. Wade and Logan go to the subway station to stop Cassandra Nova from completing the power-up process of the Time Ripper, which has already begun to spaghettify this reality, as we saw in Loki Season 2. Deadpool and Wolverine have to go down to the basement beneath the Time Ripper, where there are columns of matter and antimatter that must be linked together, according to Paradox. Wolverine wants to make the sacrifice play, but Deadpool takes his place, but Deadpool fails to stretch one of the column strands to the other side, so Wolverine has to grab his hand to complete the link, shredding off his shirt to reveal his shredded abs, and together Deadpool and Wolverine fry their bodies and overload the Time Ripper, obliterating Cassandra. And Mr. Paradox tries to defend himself to his boss, B-15, who now appears to be running the TVA as its chief judge, but Wade and Logan just reappear alive, and Paradox gets arrested. B-15 explains that whatever the two of them did, rather than simply staving off the eventual death of Universe 10005, it boosted this timeline's health so that it is growing faster and better than ever. It could be that this timeline has a new anchor in the form of a spiritually renewed Wolverine, but it leaves the door open for a sequel, or at least a multiversal event where Universe 10005's lifespan was artificially prolonged, setting it on a collision course with the 616 Sacred Timeline, and that way we could get a true Avengers versus X-Men showdown. Wade and Logan take Dogpool back to Wade's apartment for a family dinner where Laura actually joins them at the table. Wade and Vanessa share a meaningful look, and they're all eating Feige's famous pizza. That was a pizza that Wade was eating in the 2016 Deadpool film, and we end with a shot of Deadpool and Logan's masks in the foreground. So this movie's one post-credit scene Wade takes us back to Paradox's TVA viewing screen wall using Paradox's tempad, and he tells us, "I'm tired of these absolutely vile rumors that I got Johnny killed. Let's take a look at the tape." And then he boots up security camera footage that was taken inside the spherical cage as they were on their way to Cassandra's compound, and he replays Johnny's moment with Deadpool and Logan, where he says, "In the void, you're either food for Eliath or you work for her." Now, that is where the scene cut off before, but now we hear Deadpool say, "Go on, Johnny." And Johnny says, "And I'll tell you who her is, Cassandra Nova, a megalomaniacal, egotistical, psychotic asshole, a finger-licking, dead-inside pixie slab of third-rate dime store nut milk, and I'll tell you what she can do." And Deadpool goes, "I'm listening." And Johnny continues, "She can lick my goddamn cinnamon ring clean and kick rocks all the way to bald hell. In fact, I don't give a shit if she removes all my skin and pops me like some nightmarish blood balloon. If the last thing I ever do in this godforsaken cum gutter existence is light that box on fire, I still won't die happy." And Wade laughs, "Holy shit, girl, you crazy." And Johnny says, "That's right, Wade, I won't be happy until I've urinated on her freshly barbecued corpse and husk the charred remains while gargling juggernauts jugger nuts. And you can quote me." And then we cut back to Deadpool, the TVA, who snaps the tempad shut and says, "Got you, face." So this is obviously a comedic tag for Deadpool to set the record straight by quoting Johnny Storm word for word, and for Chris Evans to dirty up his golden boy image in the MCU with a reminder of the dirtbag he was as Johnny Storm, and for all of us to mentally quote Steve Rogers and say, "Language," as Evans just unleashed a foul-mouthed rant befitting of someone from Beantown. But there is an insert where we see the security camera footage inside that cage that Deadpool is showing this footage from, and it has a 3-lens eyepiece that reminds me of Kevin from the She-Hulk series. I bring it up because Wendy Jacobson was this movie's executive producer from the Marvel executive team, and right before joining this production, she had worked on She-Hulk, where Kevin first appeared. Mr. Paradox says that there was someone else at the TVA who selected Wade for survival from this doomed 10005 universe, and it's possible that that higher-up authority at the agency could be the Kevin robot. It's also possible that it was God of Stories Loki, but we don't see Loki from the end of season 2 in this movie. But Paradox does imply that the events of this movie are set after Loki season 2, as he complains that the TVA is now under new management and that the agency is no longer directed to prune timelines, but that he doesn't care and wants to bring it back to its former glory. Specifically, I noticed a shot of Matthew McFadden that looks like an insert shot on a blue screen where he references a new management, and that looks like it might have been recorded late in production after Loki season 2 came out in fall 2023. This would be when Deadpool and Wolverine would have resumed production after the strikes. So there is a way to interpret this post-credit scene to think that Deadpool may have even hijacked Kevin to re-edit the footage to make Johnny say word for word what Deadpool had said that he said to Cassandra to cover his own ass, and that maybe Deadpool now has greater control of the TVA than we think. But I don't know if that's the case. I just think this is a redemptive moment for Deadpool where he's like, "I'm telling you, he actually said that." Perhaps the biggest question from this movie concerns how this movie could set up the next 2 Avengers movies, specifically Secret Wars, as the Secret Wars #5 comic from 2015 with God Emperor Doom on the cover is still visible in the trailer under that Pingo Doce bottle, and there was a never answered question of the footage that Wade sees of a distant future with Thor holding him while he was dying. Throughout this movie, whenever Deadpool is napping or sleeping, he wakes up mumbling, "God of Thunder," or "Thor," and it's suggesting that this vision is haunting him. But Thor never shows up in this movie, suggesting that this scene was inserted to tease a future moment that we might see in Avengers vs. X-Men or in Secret Wars. Maybe Deadpool could end up taking the place of Loki as the God of Stories holding everything together, and Thor might be thanking him for giving his brother back to him. So Laura joins Deadpool and Logan with Dogpool at the family dinner at the end, but what does this mean for Elektra, Blade, and Gambit? They were all in Cassandra's compound the moment Eliath sweeps through it. All Elektra, Blade, and Gambit really wanted was a proper ending and a send-off and a legacy. Earlier in the movie, Blade, Elektra, and Gambit said that the TVA said that each of their universes were dying, and then after a knock at the door, they each got pruned to the void. Although Gambit's like, maybe I was born here, I don't know. Elektra said that they were targeted because they wouldn't go quietly. So I assume that that means that they wouldn't have universes to go home to. Obviously, B-15 came through by extracting Laura. The other 3 could have been extracted as well. They could just be doing their own thing somewhere in the background of 10005. This is why I think things are still pretty unsettled in this X-Men universe, and it's gotta be headed toward an inevitable incursion with 616. But I do think Deadpool was originally selected, as were all of these heroes selected, and Deadpool and Wolverine were miraculously spared by the grace of God of Stories Loki. He chose the heroes for the next Avengers movies. He's got the whole multiverse in his hands. Really, this movie leaves a lot of questions about the TVA's current status, as Ryan Reynolds was writing it before scripts for Loki season 2 were finished. For example, we know Eric Martin did a last-minute overhaul of the script for season 2 episode 5, so Deadpool and Wolverine doesn't really alter anything about the TVA or Loki's status as a God of Stories. It just really establishes B-15 as more of a judicial authority figure now, and with the character of Paradox, it suggests that there are still some insubordinate factions of the organization who want to restore it to its former agenda. This movie also establishes that even though the TVA has gone through a transition of power from the Kang variant He Who Remains to God of Stories Loki, the Void and Alioth still exist, and that objects are still getting pruned into this void. So the Void and Alioth must be like holdover parts of the TVA infrastructure that were independent of He Who Remains' direct control, and perhaps God of Stories Loki still, like any writer must do, have to cut certain chunks of the overall narrative. But from what I could tell by looking closely at the background of the Void in this movie, it seems like only random objects are dropping into it. We don't see any new persons arrive, like the crew of the USS Eldred in Loki Season 1 Episode 5. We only see Deadpool and Wolverine enter it because Paradox goes rogue and prunes them there. So where will we see Deadpool and Wolverine next? Well, I assume that answer is going to come from Kevin Feige at Comic-Con this weekend, and we will be in Hall H. We're going to have you covered with a breakdown of everything that we learned there. Deadpool jokes that Hugh Jackman will be doing this until he's 90. I think based off of that big question about Thor, which by the way, Jessica is going to dig into in a video that's coming to this channel on Saturday, I think it's a sure bet that these guys are going to return in one or both of the next Avengers films. Most likely Secret Wars, and maybe even Avengers vs. X-Men. Kevin Feige has already declared that starting with this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, we are already entering what he is now calling the mutant era, and we're going to just start seeing X-Men that we've seen before and new homegrown mutants in the MCU showing up in every title on the slate for the next couple years. And now that B15 says that Universe 10005 is healthier than ever, that must put it on a collision course with 616. And the first incursion showdown in the Secret Wars event could be a battle between the Sacred Timeline 616 and Deadpool's universe of 1005, the universe that numerically has been the designation for the Fox X-Men universe, which means we could be looking at Avengers vs. X-Men. Comment down below with what you loved about this movie, and again, our full Easter egg breakdown is coming to the channel tomorrow. You're gonna wanna watch it. Follow me at EA Voss, subscribe to all 3 channels of the New Rockstars Network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.